going on, party people? Now, if you knew anyone over at Game Freak, be sure to send them this video, because I think I know the key to what the next great Pokemon game could look like. And I know it's not going to happen, but it's starting to look like Pokemon ZA is probably going to be another dud. I'm not going to lie. I haven't bought the game, so I mean, obviously don't take what I have to say with too much stock, but watching some of the gameplay online and the story and this and that, and it just kind of looks like more of the same. You know, I don't really know what to say. I wasn't all that impressed by Scarlet and Violet. I don't think a lot of people were. Likewise with Sword and Shield. You know, and I don't think it's really a coincidence that, like, we haven't seen a really good Pokemon game since we made the jump to the 3DS, personally. I think we've seen some good Pokemon games. You know, I think, you know, ORAS was good, X and Y was good, Sun and Moon was good, Ultra Sun and Moon was good, Legends Arceus was a very good game too. I wouldn't call any of those great games, though. You know, I don't think we've truly seen a great game since Black and White 2, personally. Now, I know some people would probably put Legends Arceus in that game, but I don't know. I've got my reasons for thinking that game is still not holding up to the kind of the same level as Black and White 2, Black and White, and if you go further back, obviously, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Platinum, Pearl and Diamond and Pearl were pretty good, but I think it's safe to say Platinum's still better than those. This isn't supposed to be what's the best Pokemon game, though. I'm just going over what I think Game Freak needs to do if they want to capture that again and have really solid games that are worth replaying again, rather than just putting out dud after dud. And I don't actually think it's going to happen. I mean, I think Game Freak is very focused on the money. They're focused on what's going to get us the most money, and people are always going to buy this crap. You know, they really are. We're suckers for that. But you know, I think if they want to capture that really good, this is a classic game feel again, I've come up with a list of 6 things that I think that they need to do. And I've got a few other things at the end that I think are more of like a wish list than anything. But I do think there's 6 really important things that Game Freak needs to address if they want another real classic Pokemon game that's going to survive the test of time. It's going to be one that people talk about 20 years from now. Yeah, so I got 6 reasons, and I got a bit of a wish list at the end of all of this. So the first thing, and I know this is a stretch, but I really think that Pokemon needs to go back to 2D. And I'm not talking about like chibi sprites like Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were, because I know that was a 2D game, but that game sucked. And I think the graphics had a big part to do with it. Like, it just didn't look like a good game. It looked like it was a game for like 4-year-olds. Like, who wants to play a game that looks like that? I'm talking about a game that does something similar to the art style of Black and White 2, but a little more updated, right? I mean, updated for a modern console, right? And I think Black and White 2 knocked it out of the park with the art style. It was edgy. It was also kind of vibrant at the same time. You had like those kind of bright colors in there too. It was a really solid looking game, I thought. And obviously being on the Switch too, you can really make that look even better, but still kind of focus on that same idea of, you know, that kind of art style. Because the 3D games, I mean, Game Freak, they just keep striking out every single time. And it's like, maybe it's time to go back to what worked in those classic games, just doing it 2D. I mean, maybe 3D is just not a thing for Pokemon, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, do you have to be 3D just because every other video game nowadays is 3D? Bring it back to 2D, see how it goes. And I'm no game designer here, and I don't really understand how all this stuff works, but I understand, like, having a game in 3D, that's a lot of processing power, it's a lot of memory, right? If you go back to 2D, don't you save a bunch of room that way too? And you could have more room for the other things that I'm going to mention in this video. Like, is a game being in 3 dimensions really that big of a deal? I mean, all the best Pokemon games are 2D, right? And you can call me a bit of a Gen 5er if you want. It's I guess the Gen 5 version of a Gen 1er, but I think the last really great Pokemon games were from Generation 5, Black and White 2. But the DS games were also fantastic. The other DS games, that is. All of the games on Game Boy Advance were fantastic too. That being Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. And they were all two-dimension, right? And Fire Red and Leaf Green, of course, right? Those were all two-dimensional games. And they were perfect. And everyone wants them back. You know? I mean, I don't know if people are really asking for 3D anymore. And they're asking for, I just want a really good Pokemon game again. And I think this is like a big part of it. And also, like, it's not like sprites have really changed too much in like the past few generations. Like, here, let's just take a look at like the Charizard model, right? This is Charizard in Gen 1, right? Classic. Gen 2, big step up, right? Looks quite different. And I know these sprites don't like move in battle or anything, but you get what I mean. Like, this felt like, you know, a moment in time, right? Gen 3 Charizard, this thing looked fantastic. That was like, wow, it's really starting to look like Charizard. And you get to Gen 4, they keep building on that. You get the Gen 5. The Gen 5 one actually looks a lot like the Gen 4 one, I'm not going to lie. Once you get to Gen 6 and you get to like the full 3D model, and then you get to Gen 7, and it's kind of like, wait a second, aren't we just looking at like the same thing here? Gen 9? Oh, for some reason I'm not getting the whole Gen. Oh, that's ZA, that's why. I mean, it's just like, okay, maybe Charizard's standing, I guess, in that one. Charizard's got a bit of variation, but there are some Pokemon that just don't look any different at all. Every single generation here. Let's get Bulbasaur up there, right? Like, Gen 8 Bulbasaur, Gen 9 Bulbasaur, right? It's like the same thing. Gen 7 Bulbasaur, yep. I mean, the Gen 6, Gen 7 Bulbasaur is like the exact same thing, right? And maybe it is, maybe it's not in Sun and Moon, I don't know, but you catch my drift, right? It's like that art style from being in 2D, I felt like played a big part. And like, do you really need full moving sprites? Do you really need all this? Like, is there anything wrong going back to that 2D style? Or maybe have like the 2D on the map, but do the 3D in battle? That'd be pretty sick, right? You don't have to be adding all these gimmicky things like they're doing in ZA, where you can move around in battle like whoop-de-doo, you know? So anyways, I think going back to 2D is a really big important thing that they could do. The next thing I think they should do in the next great Pokemon game is just make the map huge. I mean, make this world giant. You know, if the game's in 2D and you're saving money, or not saving money, rather, you're saving space and memory and all that by it being in 2D, have a giant game, right? Like, we see so many emulators out there that are like these massive games. Why can't Game Freak put out a game like that? And I'm not saying like having old regions, you know, you can still make a new region, right? But maybe something that's of the scope of like Johto, Kanto, and Hoenn all in one game. Something crazy like that, and the Sevii Islands, like something big. 3 regions worth of content, right? And that's what the fans want. They want exploration. They want that kind of stuff, right? It's a good time. I mean, the biggest complaint about these new games is that you're just in the same city. You're just in Lumiose City the whole game in Legends EA. Like, that's a little claustrophobic. It's a little lazy, if you ask me. Again, I haven't played the game, so I'm really not the one to be criticizing it, but that whole idea of the game sounds bad, you know? I mean, it's not a coincidence that some of the best Pokemon games are the ones that have the biggest maps, the most stuff you can check out, the most things to do. That will lead to another point later on in this video too, but make the map bigger. I don't see why not, right? Like, it should be a given, right? Have this giant world, bigger than Paldea, bigger than anything that they've done in recent memory, especially like in Sword and Shield. That map was tiny, man. Make it huge. We're not idiots. We can figure out the game. Just make this a big game. That's all I'm saying. Sorry, I turned up the brightness. All right, and the next point I think they should do in the next great Pokemon game, and this might be a bit of a hot take. This might sound like a bit of a stretch, but I think they should completely do away with Dexit. I think they need to have every single Pokemon that has ever come out be in the next game. Now, I know that's a lot. I know that's a ton, but I mean, hey, Game Freak was criticized heavily for Dexit. What better way to get rid of that than just allow everything over again, right? I mean, there's only 1,000 Pokemon. I know there's forms and stuff like that too, but if you had the potential to have all these in Pokemon Home, why not put them in game? I mean, again, you're saving memory and things like that by having the game in 2D. One of the things they could bring back to compensate for that is have all the Pokemon. And I'm not saying you have to make every single Pokemon catchable, maybe have half of them available in the game, but at least have everything transferable and usable again. And I think that, I don't know, I think that would really make just such a complete Pokemon game, especially with all of the really interesting, interesting Pokemon that were introduced in Scarlet and Violet, like Walking Wake. I see it right in front of me here, like those ones. Seeing everything to come together, I think it would be really cool. They can make the story work on how all that can make sense somehow, I'm sure. Anything's possible with the Hoopa loophole now, but I truly think that they should just do something crazy and have all the Pokemon in the game again. That could make for a really interesting, like, competitive scene. And I know that's a lot of, like, Pokemon and types and things to remember, but if you made a good game, people are going to want to be invested in it, and they're going to want to learn about the game, and they're going to want to learn about all these Pokemon, right? So, I don't know. I think it just kind of leads into each other, right? Like, have everything in there. If it's a good game, then people are going to care. They're going to care to learn more about the Pokemon. Like, how many just straight up forgettable Pokemon are there, you know? I think there's just a lot they could do if they have every single Pokemon in the game, and I don't see why not. I think it would make the fans happy. Okay, next point I think that they should include into the next great Pokemon game, and it's point number 4, I think, is have more of an emphasis on the RPG elements of the battle. I think the battle system has gotten worse and worse, especially with games like, I really didn't like Legends Arceus battle system, and I don't imagine I would like the ones from ZA here, especially since there's no abilities. Like, that's going a step in the wrong direction if you ask me. And I think they really need to put more focus back on the battles. I'm talking about the battle mechanics. I don't know why my screen brightness keeps dropping there, sorry, but I'm talking about focus on the battle mechanics. I'm talking about focus on, like, you know, not just like the gimmicky stuff, like, oh, you can move around, and go back to the basics. Focus on, like, the math side of things, right? Like, the percentages, the decisions that you make. Like, I think, and not just like in competitive, but like in game as well. I mean, I think that's what makes a tough Pokemon game, is the one where you really have to think and strategize, you know? It's one problem, is just so many Pokemon games recently have been too easy. If you have something where you can actually really focus on the battle into, like, just its true form, you know, just knowing the moves, knowing the Pokemon, just knowledge, right? If you focus on that, I think you could have a really good Pokemon game, right? And that's something I love so much about Gen 5, is they really focused on that. They really leaned into that. Not like later games didn't. I mean, you can see on Pokemon Showdown, like on the competitive side of things, even in Gen 9, that's still, I mean, Gen 9 might be the one where you need to know the most about everything, because there's just so many Pokemon flying around. But, you know, in game, you kind of lost that, right? So, you know, bring back abilities, like, don't be taking things away. Like, just stick with what you got and embrace it. You know, if you have all the Pokemon in the game too, that's just gonna further promote creativity and team building. That'll help the VGC scene as well, I think, which I'm sure Game Freak would love to promote further, right? So, yeah. Point number 4, I want to see some better battles. Okay, point number 5, I think Game Freak should invest in story a little bit more. The story in some of the recent games have been so bad, so lackluster, so underwhelming, no iconic moments or anything like that. And I feel like it's fitting to have the Distortion world on screen while I talk about this, because this was, when I first played through Platinum, I like pooped my pants when I saw this. Like, this is insane. This is dark. This is gritty. Where the heck am I? Am I in hell right now? Like, where am I? Like, and I haven't had any moment like this, it feels like, since. I mean, Gen 5 had some good moments with this kind of stuff, but really, Gen 6 onwards, I mean, Gen 7 maybe a little bit. Gen 7 had a pretty good story, but overall, since we left the DS, yeah, no, the story's been pretty lacking overall. I mean, you think about iconic moments like Rayquaza coming down in Emerald to like break up Kyogre and Groudon. Like that was so cool. And the music as well. And I mean, I don't know, like having like not like a bad guy team, but like maybe Game Freak can take some risks, you know, like just something that we would care about, you know, and so not something that's cliche, but something that's like, you know, maybe you see something actually bad happen to the character or someone the character cares about, you know, like get the player invested somehow in the story, right? Yeah, it's just, I don't know, I feel like I haven't had like a moment from a Pokemon game like that I truly remember. Maybe a little bit in ORS, maybe, I mean the Delta episode, I guess, but I don't know, man. I know that's all like, I know it's all subjective, but you know, I think Pokemon could do way better in the story department. I don't think I'm going off on a limb by saying that. All right, and the last point I think would be really important for a great Pokemon game is replayability. I'm talking about starting over a fresh new game, you get your starters again for the first time, and actually wanting to replay the game start to finish. I feel like with recent Pokemon games, you can't really restart. I mean, it's almost like you get too invested in what you have, and I guess you could transfer to Pokemon Home, but it's just, I feel like the new games don't really encourage replayability in my opinion. I mean, maybe that's just me, but with games like Pokemon Emerald and the Gen 4 games and the Gen 5 games, like I've restarted those games so many times because I want to go on that adventure again, you know, start to finish, experience the story, experience everything, right? See what team I can come up with, challenge myself, you know. I feel like the new games don't encourage challenge at all, and a lot of that comes back to the root of like not wanting to replay the game start to finish. So I think that's something that Game Freak could focus on too, you know. And I mean, I don't know, they don't want people restarting, they want people building on that. But again, if you want to make that iconic Pokemon game, I really think you need something that players will want to experience in its entirety again. And that might be part of the reason why people don't really remember too much about the story of recent games, because they didn't replay the games a bunch of times, right? Like, I could tell you exactly what Team Rocket does in Pokemon Blue, start to finish, because I played those games a million times, you know? Whereas in recent games, I don't even know the names of the evil teams. Like, I don't care, because I've never replayed those games, you know? Create an experience that players will want to restart with a different team, with a different starter, and see how that goes. So I went over my main points of what I think should be included in the next great Pokemon game. Not a good Pokemon game, a great Pokemon game. The last little bit of this video is just more of a wish list than anything. The first thing is, and I got the new Megas for Legends EA up on the screen here too. I think Mega Evolution should stay. I mean, I think it's safe to say this is probably the most preferred gimmick that Game Freak's introduced in recent years. You know, the Z moves, Terra, Gigantamax. I still think that Mega Evolution is still the most popular of all of those things, and I think it can stay. You know, you give out some more Mega Evolutions, keep the ones that you introduce, keep the ones from X and Y and ORS. I think it's all great. Really, I know some of them were kind of lame, and I haven't made a video yet about what I think about all the new ones. Maybe I'll do that next week here or so. But I think Mega Evolution can stay. Honestly, it's a pretty sweet mechanic. It encourages a lot of hype as well. I think this is like the only little bit of hype that ZA got, was just getting hyped for things like Mega Victory Bell. Also, Mega Storm is hilarious, man. Look at that thing. So I think Mega Evolution can stay. I don't know about the rest of the gimmicks, but Mega Evolution should definitely be one that's part of it, just only because I think that's what the fans want. This one might be a little controversial, but I think Game Freak should maybe not necessarily bring back like HMs, but you know, just have a system so that your game doesn't become so buggy, right? I mean, if you bring the game to 2D, you know, maybe keep like 5 HMs just to make sure like the players at least has to make like certain benchmarks to progress in the game. Maybe have strength and waterfall, fly, surf, I don't know, cut, right? Like, you don't need things like whirlpool or anything like that. Or maybe you can do like a variation of the ride Pokemon like they did in Sun and Moon. That wouldn't hurt, you know, but something that's like you know, you need to hit this benchmark in order to complete the game without like having to invest so many HMs into your team either. Like, I feel like HMs have an important role, and it does give the games like a little bit of an identity. You don't need to have 8 or 9 of them or anything like that, or maybe have more optional ones like Rock Smash, I guess. But I kind of think Sun and Moon had the right idea when it comes to the ride Pokemon, so sticking to something like that would be a good idea. But I do think that Game Freak really needs to keep those things going, and just in a way less buggy way like they had in Scarlet and Violet, when you could just like skip sections even without meeting that benchmark. And again, I think going back to 2D would eliminate a lot of that bugginess. I mean, it's not a good look that so many of these games just aren't well made and they're so glitchy. I mean, BDSP, that was 2D and it was glitchy, but I feel like by having a 2D game, you're getting rid of a lot of room for glitchiness, I think, personally. So, yeah, kind of a hot take, but I think that, having some kind of HM/ride Pokemon system is important to have in place. Also, speeding up transportation as well. I mean, how often do you play an emulator and you just have the speed up button the whole time? Maybe Game Freak can have their own version of that and just make getting from point A to point B a little bit quicker without it being busted and not encouraging exploration. Like, I feel like Scarlet and Violet had almost too many checkpoints, let's say, that you could fly to. That felt a little bit of overkill. You still want to encourage exploration, but finding that balance of like, okay, this isn't broken, but also it's convenient at the same time. I feel like character customization was an important thing too, that they need to keep going as well. Again, it gives the game a little bit of identity. One thing I liked about X and Y is how you could just like change your character's appearance all the time. I think that was pretty cool. So that was a really good feature, and I'd like to see them do something similar in a really great Pokemon game. Maybe with that art style that you see from Black and White too, but also allow you to customize your character a little bit. I think that'd be sweet. I mean, you see emulators are able to do that pretty easily. I'd love to see what kind of stuff Game Freak could come up with that. I don't think this is a big deal, but it would certainly help in giving the game some identity. Also, I just remembered another point that I forgot to include in this video. Like, having the Pokemon follow you is really sweet. I understand that's a lot of sprites that you have to make, but I think those little details like we saw in Heart Gold and Soul Silver go a long way in giving the game identity. And that's kind of what this character customization section is all about. It's just like, making the experience special for the player rather than like, here you go, here's the game. So, yeah. And the last little bit I have for my wish list section of this is just bringing the community back together. I feel like, again, one thing they did really well in Gen 6, I thought, was just the online battle system and getting you into battles with random people, trading with random people. I think that's something that's in a way been lacking. I mean, maybe it's just me being bad with technology, I don't know, but I feel like Gen 6 just did it right. And I mean, whoa, what's going on here? Gen 6 just did it right, but Gen 5 was pretty good too in that department, I feel like. Maybe with technology being just more accessible and easier, we've kind of somehow gone backwards. Maybe that's just me being an old man and not really knowing how a lot of things work. It's not like I've explored the Nintendo Switch to its full potential by any means, but again, it's a money business. They want you to buy Nintendo Online so you can do all that stuff. I mean, it's a big ask to ask Game Freak to do something like that for free. But I mean, if you're buying the game, I feel like you're entitled to have that kind of stuff for free. I mean, one of the biggest controversies with Legends EA is just how much money you have to spend to get the whole experience. To buy a Nintendo Switch 2, to buy the game for $90 or whatever the hell it is, to get Nintendo Switch Online, like it's just insane. Then DLC later on. I doubt Game Freak will give you that perfect game for anything less than $100 or so. But I mean, I don't know. If they want to help their reputation and make another great Pokemon game, I think they got to start doing some of these things for free a little bit. I know that's such a tall ask, but the stuff matters, man. I mean, if you want to make a great Pokemon game, this is what they need to do. anyways, yeah, that's kind of my list. Let me know in the comments what you feel like would contribute to the perfect Pokemon game. What do you want to see in the next great Pokemon game? Do you think we'll ever get it? I kind of don't think we will. I think this is kind of how it is. I really hope Game Freak could surprise me somehow, but you know, that's just my kind of negative opinion of it all. I do think the big thing would be going back to 2D. I couldn't really see it happening, but I think that would be the foundation for all of this. Just going back to 2D alone would free up so much potential for just other things that Game Freak could do with a solid Pokemon game. Anyways, yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Peace.